Guys who did something stupid for a girl, what did you do? She crashed her bike going down a paved road, so I did the same to impress her, or to make her feel better. I really don't know my reasoning. She landed in the ditch. I did not. In high school, this girl who I was close friends with, but also had a not so secret crush on, told me once how she really loved those huge 7-foot tall teddy bears. So I told her one day I'd buy her one and she laughed, writing it off as a joke. Fast forward like 3 years later when we're going to the same local college and reconnected after slowly drifting apart after high school. She tells me one day that she's sick, so I do the only logical thing. Drive to Costco after class, drop $200 on that huge teddy bear, stuff it into the backseat of my tiny Honda Civic, drive incredibly dangerously since the bear is taking up my entire rear window, then show up at her front door. She says it feels too weird and romantic given our past, me having that not so secret crush back in high school and her having to tell me multiple times that we're better off as friends. So I do the whole drive back and return the bear. Enrolled in the same uni, he stopped talking to me 2 weeks later, grew my hair long because she asked me to. She stopped going out with me. I kept growing it, and wasn't successful with women until I got it cut. Back in elementary school, a girl asked me to be her bodyguard. I said yes and got beat up the next break by 5 boys. Moved across the country to go to a university near her. She dumped me 4 weeks later. PS. My life turned out great as a result of my decision to attend this school, so it has a happy ending. Wrote a ducking poem in a Word document and emailed her. A girl was leading me on, but also being obvious about it. I was stupidly believing I could change her ways and get her to actually date me. She had revealed she always wanted a giant teddy bear. So for her birthday Valentine's Day I bought a giant bear costume from Amazon and like 90 roses. The idea was one for every day I had known her. Creepy and cringy AF looking back. Anyhow, she called me drunk the night before and screamed mean it at me, and I finally broke down and told myself she was a shitty person. Because she always was terrible to me, and I let myself think I could change that because I was desperate to not be alone. In the end I created a sign that said free bear hugs and roses for Valentine's and wore the bear suit onto our college campus on Valentine's Day to give away all the roses. It made so many people happy that it was one of the best things I've ever done. So many hugs and girls were crying because they didn't have to feel so alone on a shitty commercialized holiday. It was cool. Plus the football players all took a flower and hugged me, which was surprisingly wholesome. In high school, I saw a girl I liked walking with her friend. My genius brain decided I needed to impress her, so I decided skipping backwards and saying some quip would make me noticeable for sure. I started skipping backwards and said better get to class. I attempted to turn around while skipping and almost face planted but caught myself. I sped walk to class and never spoke to her again. Jumped over a fire pit and ruined my right knee. Doctors were amazed I ever managed to walk, let alone have full use. This girl I really liked ages ago didn't really know who I was. I gave her a Wii for her birthday and it was probably the creepiest thing ever to her. I thought it was a surefire way to win her heart. Get married and all that Disney crap. 15-year-old me was stupid. Was in a long distance relationship with her. Flew back for Valentine's Day. Turned up with flowers. To see her through the window. Sitting on the lap of her ex. Edit. Thanks for the silver. I got on my bicycle and rode 18 miles to see my GF. My girlfriend lived 28 miles away. If you haven't done the math yet, my tire popped at 18 miles. Getting up from the bleachers to play dodgeball. I tried to pull my sweatpants off while yelling let's do this. Ended up yanking off everything. Boxes and all. Not necessarily for her, but I tried to impress a girl at my middle school fall festival when a guy bet me $60 I wouldn't eat a live goldfish he had just one. I did it. It did not impress her. I told my university-aged, now boyfriend, before our first date that I thought he looked cute in his high school uniform. Had been looking at old pics, so he rocked up to pick me up in his full school uniform that barely fit him anymore. Edit. Holy it. This was nice to wake up to. Smartphone contract. 2 years 45 OA monthly. After 6 months she left me. Now I have 2 phones and $70 to pay every month. In middle school I dated a guy who carved my initials into his leg. Flattering, I guess. Gave her a chocolate bar with a golden ticket to go out with me. I got denied. When I was around 15 I got really frustrated that a girl that I had known for a while did not want to like me and get together. I was texting her in the middle of class and the teacher made a comment about it and she made me hand over the phone and something snapped in me. I threw a chair across the room, hit my desk, which broke my hand, and I broke down crying. I thought about it today and it still makes me cringe sometimes. I apologized to my teacher and everyone included. The girl is now one of my closest friends. Edit. I threw the chair and then slammed my hand into the desk for the people that are confused. Sorry, English is not my first language. When I was 20, I was dating a girl my own age and was absolutely in love with her for a while. For Valentine's Day, I brought home a large sheet of cardboard from work and cut it into a giant heart. Bought a red sweatshirt and some various paints, and made my most embarrassing outfits to date. I painted the giant heart red and cut out an oval in the middle. I wrote on the heart, "Will you be my?" Then wrote Valentine on the shirt. I painted my face red, stuck it through the hole in the cardboard, and then showed up at her job to surprise her. Fortunately, she thought it was cute. So did her gay co-worker. Flew across continents to surprise her on her birthday. I once pretended to be drunk and I flirted with her best friend to try and make her jealous, and then because of that she said that I wasn't who she thought I was and she stopped liking me. I wanted to make her think I was cool, but instead I made her think I was an ass. Woke up at 4 AM to pick up flowers from a nearby park. Came back home. Put on some nice clothes. Hid all the flowers in a backpack. Walked all the way to school, and at the middle of art class I asked her if she wanted to go to homecoming with me. That's my number one. I took her to a Chick-fil-A rally to protest their anti-LGBTQ+ policies. Unfortunately it was a windy afternoon, and when I opened my passenger door to let her back inside my car, the breeze caught a Chick-fil-A wrapper that had been hidden under my seat. Foiled by my love of their chicken yet again. I did nothing. Was basically head over heels for a girl who was clearly interested in me. My anxiety prevented me from acting on the clearly displayed interest she had in me. Edit. Thanks for the kinda cake day words. A girl who strung me along for like 2 years in high school. Admired the nice bowls I was turning on the lathe in woods class. I made her my biggest and best one yet. Like fruit bowl size. Took weeks. I'm convinced it got smashed. Because she didn't care about me. It was amazing. Cherry, walnut and ambrosia maple. Duck Marissa. I saw cuts on the arms of a girl whom I was close to in high school. I tried speaking to her about it and she said I wouldn't understand. But I knew she had no one else to talk to. So what did I do? I tried telling her I would understand and she wouldn't believe me. So I pretended I was also sad and anxious, and that me opening up made her comfortable enough to open up. She was right though. I didn't understand, but at least she had someone to talk to even if I couldn't offer much help. We ended up dating for 2 years after both getting even closer due to all that. Anyway, she ended up turning against all her morals and everything she stood for. Turned into the people that were making her depressed and cheated on me. Anyway, I must have done some Pavlov magic because now I actually am depressed. Edit. Last paragraph made no sense. Chabj wording. I didn't end up doing it. But my senior year of high school my then girlfriend wanted me to quit marching concert symphonic band so that we could spend time together over the fall break. Our band was going to perform in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. My parents had already paid $1,000 each for the week-long trip to Nick for my sister and I. And playing the saxophone was something that I had loved since I was in elementary school. I really considered it, but I'm pretty sure even if I wanted to there was no way my parents would let me and just be out 1k. I gave her all my thoughts, all my time, all my energy. Did my best to be a great listener and have great back and forth communication to fix all and any issues we would encounter. We were happy, I thought, until one day she started to back off. We talked and what she told me left me speechless. Apparently she had me so high up in a pedestal that after an occasion where I had to cancel due to my sick grandmother she felt sick and couldn't function. She told me she needed to be able to function when I couldn't be there and that she needed time away from me so she can relearn to do that. I didn't know what to think then and I still don't know now. Thank you everyone who took their time to comment and reply no my nonsense, and thank you to the kind stranger who gave me my first silver. This can be a great community. I lost 70 pounds. Still didn't help. I've told this story before, but when I was about 8 years old we took a field trip to the Field Museum here in Chicago. During our lunch break I decided to wander off to the gift shop and see what they had. I had a huge crush on this girl named Victoria in my class and I saw this ladybug ring for a couple of dollars. I knew she liked ladybugs and I had money my parents gave me to buy something at the shop. So I decided to buy the ring and give it to her. I was really nervous and kept waiting for the right time to do it. I eventually decided to just go for it and walked up to her near the end of the trip. She was with some of her friends which made me more nervous, but I found the courage to do it. She looked at the ring and laughed. Her friends joined her and she then tossed the ring in the trash. I was completely devastated and tried hard to hold back my tears. Even though I'm over it now, that completely ducked my confidence with girls for a long time. Looking back, I may have embarrassed her too, giving it to her in front of her friends, which is why she reacted that way. But whatever the case, it's probably the most embarrassed I have been in my life. I drive long haul bus routes. Some dude shows up without luggage one day to travel across the state. Weird. I ask him, no bags? No man. I'm going to prison. Have to report for sentencing tomorrow. Oh. Yikes. Don't mean to pry. What for? I totally meant to pry because I wasn't about to have a murderer or some psycho rapist on my bus for 9 hours. Oh. I'm going to prison for this girl. She got caught with a bunch of drugs in her car. I was riding with her. It was gonna be her third strike, so I told the cops they were mine. I love her, man. She'll be waiting for me when I get out, she says. Ha 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 ha. Not me but a friend. When we were in elementary school my friend had a huge crush on this girl. So one day he decides to ask her to be his girlfriend, so he brings flowers and a note saying I love you. Meet me at the basketball hoop, so he puts the flowers in her locker. We didn't have keys for our lockers. Then he slips the letter to her and goes to the basketball hoops. She gets there too. Then he asked her out, she said no. So out of sadness my friend climbs on a tree and says, if you aren't going to say yes I'm gonna jump. Yeah, it was still a no and he jumps down on his feet and twists his ankle. She then moved to another city far away. This was in 3rd grade. Caught feelings. Guys become feckin' stupid for love sometimes. I had a friend who wanted to walk 20 miles to confess his feelings to a friend during the middle of the night. Not me, but back in middle school a friend of mine made a graffito on the wall of a girl's house in the middle of night, saying he loved her. He misspelled her name. Edit. I didn't know the singular of graffiti is graffito. Thanks guys. Moved across the US, East Coast to West Coast, for her. When I really wanted to go back home to Asia. Broke up with me after a year. Fought with a hater in a comments section on one of her YouTube videos. Girl didn't like I was getting into it with people on her videos, never asked me to stop, just went to our principal, almost got suspended for it. To preface this, I'm a hopeless romantic and adhere religiously to duck it. What's the worst that could happen? I wrote love poems and recited them in Shakespearean fashion for my crush in high school. And that didn't work. I wrote her a song and performed it. Didn't work either. Surprisingly, I took piano lessons to get to hang out with this girl. Then her girlfriend showed up to practice at one point. I fell in love with a French girl through phone at work. I'm Swedish. She worked second line support and we start flirting for a bit. I say I want to see her and I'll come to France. He says do it. I arrive in France. No one at the airport. Ring her up, she freaks out that I did it and wasn't joking. Then ghosts me. Still a pretty decent vacation. Luckily I have since then learned how to dial it the duck down. When I was 16, I wanted to buy my girlfriend a ring for her birthday. I had been working and saved up. My plan was to get a silver ring with her birthstone and pay around $600, $700. I go to a jewelry store at the local mall and discover it is going out of business soon and had 70% off diamond rings. What an amazing deal. I thought, why not get a diamond for the same price? Fast forward to her birthday party, and she's opening her gifts in front of her entire family and friends. She opens mine and immediately lights up and puts the diamond ring on her ring finger. The room gasped and I nearly passed out. I realized immediately what I had done. I had bought an engagement ring. I thought her dad was gonna kill me right there, but after telling them what happened and a lot of convincing, they finally realized how funny it was. I exchanged the ring the next day. Not me but my grandfather. After returning from World War II, he asked my grandmother on a date. She said that she would only date a guy with a convertible. Being persistent, my grandfather cut the roof off his car and asked her again. They were married for over 50 years. Bought her everything and trusted her. I had an ex that constantly made me feel like her life was falling apart no matter how much she tried to get ahead. She would ask for things like cars, usually cheap ones, so I didn't mind. Well, 3 cars later the amount was piling up. After the cars I was helping her pay rent because she would tell me someone stole from her or something like that. She never could keep a job and I'd believe her when she would say all the bosses were jerks or sexually harassing her, so she was quitting. After a point I was paying for her cable bill while working an average of 65 hours a week to cover everything. She drove a decent Mitsubishi Eclipse while I drove a rundown Neon. I trusted everything she said, and while I was working every hour I wasn't sleeping. She was having sex with every guy she could so they could provide for her as well. I never knew because I didn't listen to anyone who said anything. When she got with my one close friend behind my back, I managed to see who she was and we went separate ways. Edit. So this got a fair bit of attention. To answer some question, I only bought her cheap cars like $500 or less, projects or beaters, but I got them all running for her. The nice Eclipse she had, she got using money from her mother and such. As well, you all are right to say I was an idiot. I was, but things are getting better and I don't talk to her anymore. Edit 2. Silver. Thank you, anonymous Redditor. Finally got something decent from that relationship. Agreed to move into an apartment with her that was 40 miles away from my workplace. It was very close to her workplace. I spent 2-3 hours round trip in the car every day for over 2 years. I didn't regret it at the time, but now I have a much shorter commute and realize how exhausted I was by the terrible commute. Cute girl challenged me to race across a body of water. I barely know how to swim and almost drowned. 2 years later, same thing. Different girl. I feel like you should learn to swim, as this seems to be a pattern in your life. The last couple of years in high school, my classmates and I were always flirting and occasionally we kissed at parties. Then the moment came where she left high school and I had to redo the last year due to an accident which severely hampered my study. She left for another city, couple of hours away, to attend university. We promised we would stay in contact. After I rehabilitated for about 80% within 6 months, we agreed upon seeing each other in her city on a Saturday night. But she never turned up. I genuinely believed we both liked each other. Normally I would immediately break off contact. However, this girl was different. Once or twice per year we would stumble upon each other in our hometown. We both have moved away from our hometown, and we immediately hit off with this obvious flirtatious behavior. This is continued by staying in contact by WhatsApp, text. After many tries like mentioned above, I made the decision to stop all contact with her because it hurt every time. She didn't even react to it, by FB or text. It turned out she was very toxic and I'm glad I don't speak to her anymore. Girl states she wants to be a sports medicine doctor. So you know what? I want to be a sports medicine doctor too. 5 years later, I'm in medical school while she changed career paths. Somehow this was the best decision I've made. Not me, but this guy who liked my sister. He really wanted to woo her, so he took her mattress shopping and bought her a top of the line $6,000 mattress with all the bells and whistles. She didn't sleep with him, but she sure ducked his credit card debt.